Greetings, everyone. I am so glad that we are all here. Welcome, my kings and queens, to the African Trade Network.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome. So we're gonna get started out today. Today was going to be a little bit of a format. We have an amazing discussion that's happening today. We're going to be discussing the $600 billion. How we're going to manifest some of those $600 billion and what is the infrastructure that we need to be working on in terms of Africa.
I see the hands, and I apologize for jumping in, but I have to say this part here because it is our focus. We have to remain focused. And the money is specifically used for clean energy, health systems, gender equality, and information and communications technology. I'm going to say it again. So this is our focus. So whatever we're thinking about using this money for, and what Franklin has said about, China and what they're doing, building the roads and the railways and things like that. This is how they're thinking on how we can combat that. How can we combat that? With clean energy, focusing on health systems, gender equality, and information and communications technology. So the investments include the following. This is what they already plan to use the money for. $2 billion for a solar project in Angola, including solar mini grids, home power kits, and solar to power telecommunications. Second, $6 million for a U.S. company to build a submarine telecommunications cable that will connect Singapore to France through Egypt and the Horn of Africa, delivering high-speed internet. 3, up to $50 million from the U.S. to the World Bank's Child Care Incentive Fund, which is also getting support from Canada, Australia, and numerous foundations. And this is the last one here, $3.3 million in technical assistance from the U.S. to the Institut Pasteur Dakar for development of an industrial scale multi-vaccine manufacturing facility in Senegal that could produce COVID-19 vaccines and others in partnership with other G7 nations and the such. Says we've collectively have dozens of projects already underway around the globe, Biden said, arguing that this effort will prove democracies can deliver with fewer strings attached than Chinese-funded infrastructure. It's a chance for us to share our positive vision for the future. So they're thinking of the future. So that's how we have to think, the future, and how that's going to benefit along these guidelines of clean energy, health systems, gender equality, and information and communications technology. Okay.
Yeah, I'll do that off air. One of the things that, if you look at the document that she was just reading from, it's I forget what it's called, but an interesting thing about it is, first off, 400 billion of that money is being distributed by the EU, and only 200 billion of it is from the United States. And they're distributing it through things like the Department of Commerce, which we're already connected to. So in other words, where we get it is we've already got the pathway to it. And the Department of Commerce is about export, but we can export expertise, and that's what Fred is talking about, exporting. So Franklin and I have been having long talks with with Ron Swinson, who's not here today, but he has a solar transportation system that actually puts power back on the grid. So it falls under the thing of power. And he's been looking at actually quite a bit in South Africa.
Minute.
Okay. He's been looking quite a bit in South Africa. So what we're looking at, he's willing to work with us. And then the other person that I'm talking about is Moses, and we can help Moses export his the companies in the United States export his payment system. So there's a couple of things that we can do right now that are big enough to be able to start working on that. So I think we should focus on things that we've actually got in hand.
There's a criteria to getting help. So, you know, it's not just, we can't just go to Washington, D.C. and say, give us some money. There is a structure, and you have to go in stages, and you have to set this up. It's just like a chess game. You have to set the players up to be able to accomplish anything. So when we talk about these different sources, we can't just run in and knock the door down to the Chamber of Commerce. We can't just go to the State Department and knock the door down. We have to have strategic plans in order to reach those goals. It's easy, you know, to get a $5,000 grant, you know, from the city. It's a much simpler process. But in order to pull these things off, it's a big game.
I'm trying to get some business going, baby girl.
Some people are getting a lot more help than other people. And, you know, if you have a smart city that you're trying to build, you can't build that overnight. It's going to take a process. There's plans that need to be put together. You know, what Ron Swenson, he's 80 years old. He's 80 years old, and he's still working on his solar project. He needs to raise $5 million for that. And we're working together with him to do that. So we meet with him every week. We meet with him every single week to work on strategic planning to help him to reach that complete that 5 million. He's raised some already. He has a prototype project. So there are projects that are in the hopper that we all are trying to accomplish. But how do we look at this $600 billion and the strategy on, now what is that going to do for you? What's that going to do for Africa? I met with Pastor Jeffers' brother yesterday, and we're meeting and we're working on how we can get his project and what he's doing. He has written plans. He has schematics of everything that he's looking to develop so that we can easily take that to the Commerce Department. We have about three or four projects that we're taking to the Commerce Department. So we're looking for projects that we can take and give to Doug Wallace at the Commerce Department so that we can look for funding for those projects. But we need detailed plans and structured out plans that we don't just go and say, oh, we need $50,000, we need $100,000, because see, they're going to turn us down. And the same thing that we have to look at with the overall plan of Africa and the $600 billion. We're not going to get it all, but we can get part of it. Or we can help someone else to get part of it. We can help with projects on the continent.
Okay, thank you so much. I want to appreciate everyone, and I want to actually acknowledge the fact that your contributions are so important, and I appreciate you. African Trade Network, from my own observation, you know, for the past 2 months that I've joined as a member, is a vehicle. And all I have been hearing, you know, from the lips of people who come up with projects, you know, on this platform has been, how do we get funds to facilitate this project? That has been the issue. And of course, you know, that I perceive it's where this vehicle is heading to. Permit me to say that funds are the fuel that will power this vehicle of African Trade Network to get to its destination.
Yeah, well, I want to first go back to something that a long time ago that I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget that that Franklin said, which is yeah, one of the things that we have been doing and can do is help people have a structure so that we can present them to some place so that they can ask for money, because it's, I think right now 4 companies that we want to take to the Department of Commerce, and we'd like to be able to take, and all of them have agreed to work with African Trade Network to be part of us. And we would love every single one of you and all of us to be, for us to be able to go to the Department of Commerce and ask for money. And that money is grants, not loans. I mean, that is money they give you and you don't have to pay it back. But having that structure, it's the same exact thing when you want to go out for loans. You have to be able to tell people what your company's going to do and how you're going to be able to pay it back. And that goes easily to the education that we're talking about. But just having education is one thing, but you also need mentoring, and you need some sort of help where you can just talk to somebody and say, hey, this is what I've done. Is this right? I mean, Franklin sends me stuff. We go back and forth all the time.
I would just like to say we have worked extensively on trying to get plans for smart cities. South Africa, they sent us pictures of a place that they wanted to develop as a smart city. If we don't have drawn out plans, it's impossible to just take pictures to these officials. In America, the systems are different. We really need to have our stuff together to be able to present these things to people that are willing to put money up. And so it's just like going to the bank. If you don't have all of those things lined up and in order, nobody's going to put money up. They're afraid. They're afraid to do it, or they're just not going to do it because they need some kind of mechanism to show them what their return is going to be. I like the seminar that Don did. It's like angel investors are all about how they're going to get paid back, how they're going to get their money back. And sometimes, we think about just getting money and it not ever being paid back, potentially. So we may not think about how this other person is going to benefit from putting money into our project. So if we can think about that, and what would you like from a person if they put money up? And I think the same thing, the criteria, as Alicia was reading, the government has certain things that they're investing in: solar, medical, internet, smart cities, and on and on and on. So those things are available, but there's a criteria to be able to fit into that package that they have set up in order to access.